Hey everyone, I'm back, and today I'm going to talk about a tasty variety of a mezcal, Madrecuishe. There's a lot of bottles out there that have Madrecuishe as part of an ensemble, but today we're going to focus on single variety. All right, so what is Madrecuishe? That's the maguey name. The agave name is Agave Karwinski. And typically, Agave Karwinskis can take 8 years up to 20 years to mature. The way I usually describe a Madrecuishe, it's got really spiky pencas on top of a very dense core. But I'm gonna borrow from one of the top mezcal brands out there, Neta, and use their description of a Madrecuishe. It's a similar appearance and name throughout Oaxaca. The piñas weigh 60 to 200 pounds. Madre meaning mother. This plant is capable of cross-pollination and produces seed that develops into very distinct varietals. Seed from a Madrecuishe will often yield varieties such as Cuixe Verde, Quiote, and Tobasiche. In the Michoacan region in Oaxaca, where you find a lot of Agave Karwinski growing, these are all subspecies. And now onto the flavor notes for a Madrecuishe, and I'm gonna keep it pretty general. Normally, I find the two biggest ones, they have a lot of woodiness, and a sweet floral flavors and aromas. If I have to drill down a little bit deeper, I find the note I get most is peanut shells. And since I tend to enjoy a lot of Madrecuishe from the Michoacan region, I find that these will typically also have a chalky, earthy minerality. All right, now let's talk about some bottles. First off, I'm gonna start at what I call a bit kind of the lower end. Some that you'll find out there is Casa Manglar, and there's also Bozal. I believe in California, they're priced in around the $50 range, maybe a little bit more. But I think if you're trying to really find a really nice Madrecuishe, I would spend a little bit more, and I'll talk about that in the mid-range. And so when I talk about mid-range, this is more of a personal preference. So mid-range, what I find above average taste, I would say you got U-Ball, Origin Raiz, Dish Bay, El Hogorio is always solid. But one of my favorites in the mid-range, I like the Rey Campero Madrecuishe. And what I like about it even more is it comes in a 200 milliliter bottle. This is probably gonna be 30, 35 bucks in California, as I recall. And this is a really good way into getting into varieties. You know, most people will start with Espadín, but if you want to get into Karwinskis, they also have a Cuixe, they have an Agave Rodcantha Mexicano. But yeah, this Madrecuishe, really tasty, and if you find it out there, it's a great one to try to dip your toe into a Madrecuishe, see if you like it. Now we're gonna get into my higher end Madrecuishe mezcals. I think these bottles start around the $85, $90 to $150 range. But I definitely think these ones I talk about going forward are a cut above the rest. I talked about Neta before, and I believe one of my first 5-star reviews ever on Mezcal Reviews was one of their Madrecuishe bottles by Thomas Garcia Cruz, and that bottle is long gone, long demolished, enjoyed. And one of my trips to Oaxaca, I reached out to Max, one of the owners at Neta. I was touring around Michoacan with Rambling Spirits. We went to the town of Lagoche. Max hooked us up with Don Tomas. It was so awesome to meet him in person, and it all started with that magic Madrecuishe I had a few years ago. Another great brand out there that has fantastic Madrecuishe is Malbien. They have bottles of Madrecuishe made by the Ramos family and also the Cortez family. All right, next up we have the brand Cuixe. This is their Madrecuishe by Augustine Gwendolaine. I love this Madrecuishe. I think it's definitely a top one. I'm gonna give her a little taste here. All right, this one hits hard, very, very floral, sweet, a bit sugary at the start. Again, without drilling too deep into the notes, fabulous Madrecuishe here. All right, next up we have the Mezcal Vago Madrecuishe. This is by Emigdio Jarquin. One thing about Vago, their entire line, top to bottom, is pretty damn impressive. This Madrecuishe is no exception. I'm gonna give this a go. All right, one of the things, the last one I had, the Cuixe, Madrecuishe, that was 48% ABV. This one is 51, and maybe not as floral, a little bit more wood to it. Those tiny bit of that peanut shell note I talked about is coming through. Definitely a little warmer, again at 51% ABV, but not hot. Very full flavor. That extra 3% ABV definitely goes a long way. That's what I've really kind of said in a lot of my other videos. Don't be afraid to go up in a higher ABV, especially if you're newer to Mezcal. Definitely deviate away from 40%. 45% and above, I said that 45 to 55, awesome. You're gonna get great flavors. My sweet spot is sort of the 48 to 52, heck, even up to 54. And I think of all the ones I talk about today, on the higher end, this Vago Madrecuishe is definitely gonna be the more accessible out there. I think it's probably in the $90, $100 range, depending where you're at. But if you see it, you want a Madrecuishe, you can't go wrong with this one, 100%. All right, in these higher end, there's gotta be a best of the best. And this one here is the Limata Agave Spirit Madrecuishe made by Sosimo Harkin. So the other ones I talked about, one was 48%, the other one was 51%. This is right dab in the middle, 49.5%. And since this one is my favorite, I'm gonna use the fancy spirits tasting glass. Ooh, look at that, boys. Oh man. This is definitely more floral, sweeter than the other ones. As the finish goes on and on, really get that peanut shell note I talked about. Compared to the other two, the flavors on these are booming, just punch in the face. And so when I was fawning over this bottle to a bunch of my Mezcal colleagues, the owner of Limata, Luis Loya, he really provided a lot of context, a lot of details of what made this such a great batch. And it all starts on how Sosimo harvests the Madrecuishe in the first place. Sosimo harvests this in around August, September, and he'll take the Madrecuishe, cut it from the roots, and lay it down in the field, and let it sit there for, I believe, 6 or 7 months. And this process is called tombado. So in around, let's call it March, Sosimo comes back, he collects the Madrecuishe from the field, and he brings it into his palenque for it to be cooked. But after it's cooked, and before it's milled and fermented, Sosimo will leave the cooked piñas out for another month, and they'll collect a reddish fungi on it. And I've seen this in other Karwinskis, in Santa Catarina Minas. I believe the Cuixe down there will get a sort of a greenish, bluish fungus. But what this does, it adds so much more flavor to the eventual fermentation and, well, in the end, the batch after it's distilled. I'm really glad that Luis and Limata were able to get this batch out there and for all of us to enjoy. This is fabulous. And lastly about this Limata, it doesn't sound like Sosimo has any Madrecuishe ready this season, maybe not even the next. So if you find this out there, you might want to scoop it up. I know I'll be grabbing another one if I see it. Got to beat me to it. All right, we are almost done. One more order of business here. Gonna talk about this Madrecuishe by Mege Malate. I discussed this in, I believe it was one of my video from well over a year ago. It was special batches and subscriptions, Mege Malate being a subscription brand. This is made by Silvestre Jimenez, and this is how I described it back then. I'm gonna check out the stat card that comes with the bottle, and this is by Silvestre Jimenez Peralta. This is made in San Luis Amatlan in Michoacan. And man, check out this Silvestre dude. This guy seems like he's all about the good times, and I get the feeling I would love to tip back a copita, maybe 8 with this guy. So yeah, Silvestre struck me as just a super fun guy, awesome dude. Definitely wanted to have a drink with him. Unfortunately, Silvestre passed away due to COVID. So even though I didn't know Silvestre or hadn't met him, the Mezcal community lost an awesome, well, judging by this bottle, very talented Mezcalero, and we're less for it. So I'm gonna wrap up this video with a salute off to Silvestre's Madrecuishe, and I'm really looking forward to sharing my Mezcal experiences, passing on information to you guys. You're fantastic. I appreciate the support, and well, here we go. Silvestre, cheers, my friend. This is to the Jimenez family. See you next time, guys. Salud.